50 days transformed by prayer.
Once again, hi boys and girls, it's Uncle Malone, and for our story for today, we go back to Africa when I was a little boy. And I don't know where your grandparents live here in Canada, but my grandparents lived there far, far away. We had to get into the car, and believe it or not, those days you could get into the back of a truck without seat belts, right? And my dad would drive on the bumpy roads, doop, 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 doop. And then we would spend the day or the weekend at Grandma's. Now the road to Grandma's had crossed a river, which had a really small bridge, a tiny little bridge there. If you looked over the edge, you were in danger of falling off on this side. If you looked over the edge on this side, you were in danger of falling into the water on this side. And we had done this journey many, many times. So I remember it must have been around Christmas time. We had been visiting my grandmother, and we were now on our way back, and it was getting dark, probably around 8 o'clock. The sun had set and you could see a few stars, and we were chugging along at the back of a car and minding our own business. And then when we came to that little bridge, the headlights of the car all of a sudden went off, and we were driving in total darkness. The kids who were sitting in the back, including me, my two sisters, and my other brothers, we panicked because we thought, wow, what's going to happen? Are we going to fall into the river? Is the car going to be washed away? Are we going to drown? But my dad did something that was very interesting. He took some newspapers and he rolled them up into a long newspaper about this long. And then he lit a match and he lit that newspaper on fire, and we crossed the bridge with the light from that newspaper. We could just make out the edge. You know, he didn't have a flashlight like this fancy flashlight that's on my phone here, but it worked, and it allowed us to get across the river and onto the other side safely. You know, boys and girls, when we live in this world, there are a lot of things that we might not understand, a lot of things that we might not be certain of, and that might confuse us. But we read in the Bible in John chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus saying that He is the light of the world, and whoever follows Him will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. You know, there are many other texts in the Bible, in the Psalms, that talk about how His word is the light and a lamp unto our feet. And so I want to encourage you, boys and girls, that whenever you have a challenge, even if you don't have a challenge in the mornings and in the afternoons and in the evenings, when we walk and we get up and we go about our business, we remember to invite Jesus into our lives, because He is the light that will cast all the darkness away. Thank you for listening.
So my biggest experience with prayer in my life was an ongoing discussion and battle with God over a big problem in my life. To me, it was a big problem, that something I wanted very badly, and that was a bigger family. And, you know, God wasn't apparently going to grant that wish to us. And this conversation went on with God for nearly 10 years. And I remember one specific day where I finally was praying, and I said, you know what, God, you're right, and it's okay what you've chosen for my life. In fact, it's great, and I'm thankful for where you've brought me, and I just gave it to Him. That was it. That was the end of the struggle. That was the discussion was over, I said, God, that's it. You're right. I'm happy and I'm contented. And the story could have ended right there, and it really, I can confidently say it would have been okay with me that was it. That was where this particular chapter of my life ended, and I could go on in peace. But the beautiful thing was that God did, after that, give us another daughter, and I don't know why He did that for me, and I feel very undeserving. But I'm grateful, and I'm giving prayers of thanks.
50 days transformed by prayer.
Heaven is full of answers to prayer for which no one ever bothered to ask. This quote by Billy Graham made me wonder why. Most often, we do not prioritize prayer. We do not ask in prayer because we have no faith that anything will really happen. Other times, we are too confident we can provide the answers ourselves, so we have no room for trust in God. Heaven invites our request. God has the answers we need. Peter recognized he was not able to solve a problem, but he knew who could. He longed to see the impossible being accomplished. This motivated him to deeper faith in what Jesus promised. Most assuredly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also. And greater works than these he will do, because I go to my Father. In the Bible, Book of Acts, chapter 9, it tells us that a lady who lived in Joppa was loved by all. She was known for her example of selflessness and care for others. She especially focused her care on those who were less fortunate. She became very sick. Her name was Dorcas. Peter, who was in the area, was invited to Joppa quickly, but when he got there, it was already too late. Dorcas had died. The sadness of all was clear. The biblical account of the situation that Peter faced when he arrived at Dorcas's home is recorded. Then Peter arose and went with them. When he had come, they brought him to the upper room, and all the widows stood by him weeping, showing the tunics and garments which Dorcas had made while she was with them. What to do? Peter knew he could do something much bigger than just speak words of comfort. Maybe it came to his mind the experience of Lazarus and how Jesus surprised everyone by giving life to a man who had been dead for 4 days. By faith, Peter claimed the promise that he could do similar and even greater things than Jesus had done. The Bible tells us, but Peter put them all out and knelt down and prayed, and turning to the body, he said, "Tabitha, arise." And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. We do not know what the words of the prayer of Peter were, but we know that Dorcas, which in Aramaic is Tabitha, came back to life. What a prayer! What a faith! When you are face to face with an impossible problem, do you have enough faith to seek and receive God's blessing? Augustine wrote, "God is always trying to give good things to us, but our hands are too full to receive them." So often, unbelief, arrogance, doubts, among other things, keep us from asking God for big answers to our prayers. This is the barrier that keeps us from receiving the blessings God wants to give us. Peter called on God, receive the needed blessing. Finish reading the story in Acts and you will see the things Peter did. First, he sent everyone out of the room. Perhaps he thought one person might doubt the ability of God to answer his prayer. Others might distract him from keeping his eyes fixed on Jesus. Peter decided to be alone. We must learn to be alone with our God. Then Peter knelt and prayed. He presented this huge problem to God in total trust and faith. He claimed the promise Jesus had made. Then Peter turned to the body of Dorcas. He turned to the problem at hand and by faith cried, "Tabitha, get up." Are you willing to trust God fully and have complete faith that He will answer your prayers? Peter had faith, and he saw the eyes of Dorcas open. You can see miracles taking place in your life. Let God help you let go of your uncertainty and claim His promise that He has the right answers for your need. Are you prepared to request the fulfillment of God's blessings in your life? Then pray. Pray for what seems impossible in your life. Remember, prayer is the key in the hand of faith to unlock heaven's storehouse, where are treasured the boundless resources of omnipotence.